Happy New Year to everybody. Just to open, disappointed without question. I think, look, all of you in here know me and know that I wear my emotions on my sleeve and care deeply about not only the organization, but the city, our fans, want to do good for them. We want to do good for them. And it wasn't good enough. Like at the end of the day, it wasn't good enough. Had long meetings with Carly prior to the Houston game. We met, 3 or 4 times, a couple hours for each session, kind of diving into everything we do. And like the number one question she asked me, do you still have your juju or shimmer to do this? It's a fair question. I am emotional. I care. I wear my, it starts with me when things don't go right. And it guts me when things don't go right. So when she asked the question, Lord knows it created some real discussion. But I told her unequivocally, I have not lost my shimmer, or juju, or confidence, or whatever you want to say it is. Even through all the struggles we've been through, I feel like we can still get this team to a place where the city is proud of it. I'm grateful, feel fortunate, never take it for granted. I'm humbled just to work in the NFL, and I'm humbled to work for such a tremendous franchise. We've got to do better. We've got to handle adversity better. We've got to finish better. And I have to be better at my job. So, saying that, time's yours.
How do you get better? What do you do?
Like the team you start out with in August is never the same team in December or January. It's not. And we've got to do a better job from a personnel standpoint of making sure we have, enough depth and solve problems along the way. There's going to be adversity in every season. There just is. It's the NFL. It's a hard league. It's hard to win. And things are going to happen. And you've got to find ways to be deep enough and have enough talent on the roster that you can still win games. We've got to evaluate everything. We were 2-7 in one-score games. That we got to flip that trend. There's things in 2 minute that we have to look at because we were giving up too many scores at the end of halves, and that's something that's got to be corrected. So those are all areas that we're going to delve into. I'm not going to sit here and say I have the answers right now, but we're working towards that.
How much do you weigh the team being 8-2 and then finishing 8-9? Like a lot of it sounds like you all believe in that first part. Mm-hmm. So where's the balance there?
It's tough, James. I would have told you, when we got back from Germany, I'd have told you we had a top 4 team in the league. I believe that, still believe that. But, losing 7 in a row is losing 7 in a row. That's not what top 4 teams do, and that's reality. That's the facts. We did do some. I don't want to stand up here and just like it's either here or here, like it's all. It wasn't all negative. The 8-2 is real. That was not a mirage. It wasn't. We were humming and we were playing good football. But we've got to find ways to. If you look at the 8-2 start, I think we were +9, and then if you look at, the 1-8, the 7-game losing streak, I think we were -9. All right, so like turnovers, how we play, all that comes into play. But at the end of the day, 7 in a row is 7 in a row, and we've got to find a way to build on what we had at 8-2. And find ways to handle the adversity that we faced and finish games better.
Chris, if I'm a fan and I'm listening to you,
I've heard a version of this many, many times. So I guess my question would be, why is it different this time? Mitigating circumstances this year being what they were, which are real, like you said.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you understand. that concept.
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, like it starts with me, and until we win big, win a division, go far in the playoffs, there's going to be doubt. That's real. I don't run away from that. I don't shy away from that. But here, let's just take offensively. I thought Shane and the staff we were tremendous. I mean, through the first 11 games, I want to say we were ranked 1 yards, points, and EPA. And then if you really dig deep into it, like over the last 50 years, I think we were in the top 8 of all-time offenses in those areas, all right? So offensively, we drafted every player but Daniel Jones. So there's some positive there. There's some definite positives to build upon. I do think we need to help the defense out more. I think our age showed a little bit. And we've got to get younger. We got to get faster, on the defensive side. But to answer your question, until we do, words are words, actions speak louder than words, and wins speak a lot louder than losses.
How do you keep your confidence in the face of everything?
One of the things that, struggling, I think it's one of my pet peeves kind of in the world today, is that nobody embraces the struggle. Good things in life are not easy. Winning in this league is hard. It is freaking hard. And it's not all roses all the time. And Lord knows the last 5 years have not been what we wanted them to be. But if you can't grow through the struggle, or if you avoid struggle and pain that's going to happen in life, how do you ever grow and get better? I mean, how do you improve? And I think that's the only way you can. If you ever lose your confidence just because things get hard in life, then you're going to have a miserable life. A friend of mine told me last week, close friend, because I beat myself up. I do. And it's not from a standpoint of, it's more of my care for people, okay? You feel like you're letting people down, letting an organization, you're letting a fan base down. And he told me, he said, Chris, there's a difference between pain and suffering, okay? Pain is short term. Suffering is long term in what our minds do to ourselves, okay? We choose, you get to choose if you want to suffer. All right, pain's inevitable in life. You're going to have it. But suffering is something totally different. That's a conscious choice that either we can move past and get over the pain. You can't avoid it. You cannot avoid failure. You can avoid struggle. You can't avoid pain, but you can avoid suffering. I will not suffer. I will learn and grow from it. And the only way you learn and grow is through struggling.
You mentioned that the 8-2 start wasn't a mirage. What makes you believe that it can be sustained over a longer period of time, perhaps going into 2026?
Yeah, I think, and that's something Shane and I and Carly and all our staff, we've got to dig into, of how to finish, how to handle adversity. I play a big role in that with the roster, making sure they have enough depth and competent players to give us a chance to win. But I really don't believe. I mean, we were playing as good a football. And, if you look down the stretch, I mean, one-score games, 2-7 in one-score games. And you got to find a way to fight through that and win those games. And usually the teams that make the least amount of mistakes in those games that win, don't lose it. Give yourself a chance by making the other team have to earn it.
Last year in early January, it was defensive philosophy, needs some tweaking, and then you mentioned your free agency approach. Do you sit here with clear 1, 2, 3 things right now that need to be changed, or is it more of a, I like what we did, we just got to, stay healthy and finish?
No, I'm never going to use health as an excuse. I mean, I don't think that's, like I said a minute ago, like the team you start with in August, it's never the same team you finish with in January. So no, I will tell you this. Like I think our defensive front, we've got to add some fuel, okay, to the front, and we've got to get younger. We've got to get faster, unequivocally, on defense. Offensively, we've got to be able to run it when we want to run it, all right? And I will say that kind of when Daniel got hurt, it took away some things we could do from a mobility standpoint, which I think affected it, but that's something we'll dig into. But just off, our initial thinking, our defensive front, and we got to get faster, especially on defense.
Chris, you talked about growing as it looks like you did change your approach this last offseason, being more aggressive with free agency and the sauce trade. And Daniel, the fact that those sort of worked until they didn't, does that show you that that's still maybe the way to go if you can maneuver the money and all that?
Yeah, no, I think, look, Carly wants to win. Kaylin, Casey, they want to win. And they understand that, look, there's a different approach you can take. I am proud of the fact that, even with I think over 70% of our roster was initially, they're guys that we drafted, undrafted, guys that had made the roster. We were more aggressive a year ago, not only in, free agency, but, in-season trades. And I think we'll continue down that path. Wherever we think we can add and gives ourselves the best chance to be a Super Bowl winning team, that's what we'll do.
Do you have the flexibility?
What's that?
Do you have the flexibility to do a lot of the things that you're talking about? Because that will cost money.
Yeah, we'll be in good shape. We're in good shape. Mike Bloom does a tremendous job for us. So, from a cap standpoint, we'll be in good shape.
Is some of that generated by Carly, Kaylin, and Casey taking over and saying we want to be more aggressive?
No, because Mr. Irsay was, he was still alive at the time last year when we went through our free agent path. A lot of your just depends on where your roster is, what moves you think you need to make to, get it pushed. But no, they want to win, yes, but so did Jim.
Why were you more aggressive if you want to go back to the last offseason? Like, what led to that change then? Because those were questions about you going into the previous offseason.
Yeah. I think every year's a little bit different. If you go back and look, like in 2020, we had signed, we made the trade for Buck, and we signed Phillip Rivers to a big contract. And then, kind of got more flat when we got to 21, 22, 23, and 24 and decided, you know what, we need to be more aggressive trying to add as many impact players as we can, not only through the draft, but also through other avenues.
Chris, as you sit here today, is there a role for Anthony Richardson, or do both sides need to go separate ways?
I don't. That's a very fair question. And I think I was really happy with Anthony. I think you knew that even after we named Daniel Jones the starter. Unfortunately for Anthony, he's had some really bad luck. Year one, he hurts his shoulder, has to spend the whole next year rehabbing, comes back, kind of an up and down, but saw positives, but also some negatives. And then, goes into our training camp, and I thought he had made tremendous strides. I did. I thought Anthony had made great strides. At the end of the day, we went with Daniel. Just felt he was the right person at the time for the job. But saying that, Anthony was making really good strides. I'll tell you this about Anthony. He's a great teammate. He's a great teammate. And never sulked, never complained, was doing a great job as a backup quarterback, and then he has a freak accident in the locker room. I think time will tell. In terms, it was great to get him back out to practice, for that 3 weeks, so at least get him back involved in the team and moving again. But he's got to still work through the vision he has, and we'll see what the future holds there. But, a little bit of bad luck. We'll kind of see going forward, how that ends up playing out. A lot of it's going to deal with his health, too.
Are you confident in Daniel's Achilles recovery?
Yes. Yeah, I am confident.
And why? Because
That does sound risky.
we've had some other guys come through with Achilles who struggled a little bit that first year back.
Yeah, no, and it's a legitimate question. And you never know, like, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not God in terms of knowing what the future's gonna hold in his healing. But just kind of going through the history of guys, Blackman, he came back from it. Sampson had come back really well from his. And if you think back to before he hurt his knee, Sampson was playing really good football. Now, playing quarterback's a little different than playing, free safety or defensive end. The history of guys coming back has been, pretty good. And they've been older, than Daniel. Daniel's 28 years old. He's a pretty freaky talent in terms of athletic ability. So no, I do feel confident they will make it back. Will he be the version you saw right away? Maybe not, but he's still going to be really good. And I think as he goes along and plays, he'll be fine. The one thing I know about Daniel, he's going to put he hasn't missed anything. The second he got hurt, he gets his surgery done, comes back in the building, in every meeting. He rehabs like a wild man. So I know this. He's going to put every ounce of his being into being the best he can be to be ready.
Hey, Chris, I got two questions.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to have to yell over everybody twice, just two here. One is the nature of the way Anthony got hurt, the bizarreness of it. Does that, if his vision doesn't come back, does that open the door to salary cap relief up to and including voiding his contract?
No. Voiding his contract, no.
Salary cap relief because it was a non-football injury, if that's what
No.
it might be?
No. That's not no.
Okay,
Chris,
your coordinators, are you going to bring them? Is there any staff changes you're going to?
Right now, there's not. So, we're still visiting, but I don't foresee that.
Chris, I know you don't make excuses for injuries and they're part of the game, but it seemed like each injury was a key critical piece. To be so snake bit, did you ever have a moment where you just thought, what can go wrong next?
No.
What was that frustration like, though, as they continued to each Jenga piece seemed to be a critical one to knock the tower over?
We got to find a way. We got to be able to handle all of us. Me included, my staff, coaches, players. Got to find a way.
Knowing that injuries, and you said several times that injuries aren't an excuse, as you analyze that first half of the season, the second half, the first half you guys pulled out some of those close one-score games. What did you notice, injuries aside, knowing that you guys were still in a bunch of those games that you felt like made a difference or changed or just wasn't executed?
Yeah, the margin of error, as things happen, the margin of error, to win a game at that point becomes very small. You can't make a lot of mistakes. Even in the 8-2 start, there's some games where we weren't perfect, but man, we were playing so well, even if we made a mistake, we would overcome it. And then as you start to, dwindle down, the margin of error becomes very small at those points. At the end of the day, we still got to find a way. You got to find a way to win those games. You got to find a way to get a stop with 39 seconds left in Seattle. You got to find a way to convert, in Kansas City when we get the ball back with 5 minutes at the 50, up 3. We got to find a way to convert there. And it's not just there's situations in a game, there's leverage points in a game where we got to find a way. Just like the last game of the year. We take the lead, then we give it up, at the end. We got to find a way to get over those and handle those situations and execute better in those situations. And that falls on me too, not just staff. We got to make sure I have the players that can execute at that point.
Chris, we haven't talked to you since the sauce trade, I don't think. That was super aggressive.
Yep.
Very high price, 2-1s and a talented receiver. In light of how the season went, do you still consider that having the potential to be successful?
Yeah, and part of the reason was his 24-year-old premier corner. Those are not, I kept asking myself, I said, look, would we get this guy in the draft? Well, okay, maybe. Get a little luck, but, you're talking about a premier guy who's been in Pro Bowls. He's 24 years old, and the contract was we thought advantageous to acquire. So no, look. Unfortunately, he goes, and he pulls a calf. Right when we get him, he's already been to Europe once. Then we're flying and going to play in Europe, so we play an overtime game. And then I want to say our next game versus Kansas City, we get the week off, but then we go and he plays 95 snaps, versus the Chiefs. And then, unfortunately pulls a calf, which we all know is not the easiest thing to overcome when you pull a calf. So no, still, look, Sauce has got a really bright future. And he's going to be a core piece for us here for a while.
You mentioned in the past that you didn't want to hamstring this franchise with any move. Given the amount of resources you put into the Sauce Gardner deal, how much do you think that changes what you can do to help change your roster without having the first-round picks in the future and things like that?
I think a couple of things. I think there's different ways to acquire players. I think that's been proven. We also went back and studied like the years we didn't have a first-round pick. How did we do in those drafts? And those drafts ended up being, pretty good. But it does put a premium on making sure, where those second, third, fourth round picks end up being really good, which, we've had pretty good success in. Not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But no, I would still do the move again today.
Did you think you were a player away when you made that move?
I think at the point, adding a premier corner, and then knowing we were about to get Ward back, no doubt, I'm thinking, okay, we got a chance to have two freaking legitimate one corners to match up to really free our defensive staff up to do some things. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. But saying that, we got a 24-year-old premier corner that still has upside. Those guys are not easy to find.
Chris, late season, however you want to define them, struggles, losses, collapses. It's not just this past year. It's happened now several times.
Yeah.
Do you view that culturally? Do you view that as more than just?
Look, if you remember back to training camp, y'all were harping on start of the season, and I go, yeah, that's important, but we got to find a way to finish the season. And that is one of the major issues we have. You can go back to 21, 23, 24, 25, 4 years. We have not finished, and we've got to evaluate and figure out why. I'm not going to sit up here and say I got an answer for that right now, but that is real. Because we've not finished.
The tough guy phrase last year, is that?
I will. Look, I will tell you this about this team, because they fought. Look, y'all go to games. I thought the locker room, staff, organization, they fought. There was no quit in this team at any point. Even when we started having injuries, there was no quit. And I do think, it's funny because the toughness is a fair question. I think handling adversity, I don't think we were non-tough, that's for sure. But handling adversity better, I think that's a better way to put it.
Thanks, Chris. You've had, have you had talks with Mooney and Buck about coming back? Do you think they'll both be back?
Well, look, I think me with players and health, okay? We do. We care deeply about these guys, not only their careers, but their long-term health, okay? So far, Buck's had his surgery. It was successful. His mindset is he's going to play again. As for Mooney, that was a scary deal. And look, I happened to be on the field when I'm walking by when Kenny Moore grabs me and says Mooney's down against Arizona, and that was scary because he was knocked out. That was a scary concussion for him. I can't say for sure what direction that's going to go, but at the end of the day, we will have discussions with him, with Mooney, and we're going to do the best thing for him and his long-term health. And so we'll see how that one ends up playing out.
One other question, and I'll get out of the way, but you've talked about Daniel Jones. He's a free agent. I mean, are you committed, come hell or high water, one way or the other, he'll be your quarterback?
Well, hell or high water is a strong word. But we would like, look here, I think it's mutual on both sides. I think Daniel was a really good fit for this organization, and I think this organization and city were a really good fit for Daniel.
Does the injury impact things?
Well, of course. I mean, we'll work through that, with his agent. He's got a really good agent, and, we'll find a way to work through that.
In the near
How
future
you
with
mentioned
the,
that the urgency has never been higher than before. How do you receive that message going into the final year of your contract? And is that part of the urgency that you might feel?
I've always felt it. I mean, the urgency's always, I've always felt urgency, but there does come a point where, she's got to, Carly, Casey, and Kaylin got to do the best thing for the franchise. And if we're not getting it done, then damn right, there's got to be some urgency. I've never felt like we didn't have it, but I will tell you this, even with the sense of where we need to be and where we need to go next year, we will still do the right thing for this organization. We will. And we'll continue to bring in the right type of people and players to give our best chance to win a Super Bowl.
Going to year 10, what do you view as your greatest accomplishment, best accomplishment since being here, and what do you draw confidence from that can convince these fans that the Super Bowl
We
is
could
in the
go off
future?
on this could be long-winded. Well, look, I thought we started out pretty well under some pretty adverse conditions, both in 18, the 1-5 start, the bounce back to go to the playoffs, beat a good Houston team, go and lose in Kansas City. And then coming back in 19 where we had the youngest team in football, lots of space from guys under contract, a franchise quarterback, and then when Andrew retired, it kind of changed the dynamic. And then the rebound in 20 and have a really good football team. 21, I thought, was every bit as good as those two other teams. We were, if you think back on it, we were 9-6. We had gone to Buffalo and beat a really good Buffalo team pretty hard. I think we beat 5 playoff teams that year, and I think it was all kind of in a consecutive, after the 1-4 start, we got on a pretty good roll. So I do think there are some positives to build upon. And if you look back to 23, we lose a tight game to Houston to win a division. I mean, we've, that's the things that, I look back and some of the stuff we've had to overcome, but at the end of the day, we've not finished. I mean, we've had these, in 2021, we're 9-6. We win one of the last 2. We're in the playoffs. 23, we win the last game. We win the division. Last year, at the end, we go to New York and lay an egg. This year, we have a chance, and we lose. We're 8-2, and we lose 7 in a row. So, I've not lost confidence because I know we've done it. Have we won the division? No. Have we won the Super Bowl? No. And ultimately, that's where we need to get to be able to make this city proud again.
You say you have done it. What are you referencing? Just because you haven't made the playoffs in 5 years, so we see you have done it. Are you talking about 2020 or before that? Or?
Yeah, 18 and 20. We built really good football teams, and we dealt with some pretty adverse situations. I would tell you, when Andrew retired in 19, 2 weeks before the season started, and we ended up having, I think, 7 and 9. We started out 5 and 2 and kind of faded, but then to bounce back in 20 and have a really good football team, overcoming all of that. I'm not going to look down on that and say that was a failure. That was pretty good. That was a good football team.
A lot of these ups and downs we're talking about are the result of that quarterback instability that flowed from that. And there were swings, there were some hits, some misses. Now, looking at Daniel Jones, not having that long-term solution, are you looking at him as in the near term or long term?
I'm looking at him both, near and long, and I think that helps us. I think you all know. I've been very stated about, when you're chasing the quarterback all the time, it makes it it's hard. Like your margin for error really shrinks down. And I feel very good, about Daniel Jones and where he's at, where he's going. Yes, he's got the Achilles, but I think Daniel Jones is got a really bright future here in Indianapolis. And look, there is some comfort knowing that, okay, we know we've got a guy that that's proven, that's done it, and done some really good things. And so that does give you some confidence.
Daniel had a reputation of being a certain type of quarterback when he was with the Giants. Where did you see him grow with Shane this year?
I'll give Shane and the offensive staff a lot of credit playing to his strength. Like he is really accurate with the football, okay? And he's very smart and decisive of where he plays with the football. I think that's the one thing that I think Shane and him did a really good job with Dan. I think Daniel will tell you that. Like, hey, they cleaned it up. Like, okay, Daniel, this is what you're going to see, and this is where the ball needs to go. There was a play versus Kansas City. If you remember the throw to Ogletree in the back of the end zone, where you watch 1, 2, 3. I mean, and he had to stand. Look, he was hurt. I mean, he was playing hurt at the time, so he didn't have the same confidence running around and moving. So he had to stay in the pocket, feel the pocket close in. I think those type of plays right there really, I didn't always see that in New York consistently, and that's a credit to our staff and a credit to Daniel.
Chris, partying with veterans under contract, never really been something you've done too much. Could you see that part of the plan this offseason?
We'll evaluate that as we go along. Yeah, we're just delving into the roster right now.
Not having a first-round pick lead you to be more inclined to stress stuff like that?
No, not really. No.
How important is it to retain Alec Pierce?
Well, I think my feeling. I've always believed in Alec Pierce from day one. I would tell you, Reggie and I both, from day one, from when we worked him out at the University of Cincinnati, we had a great belief in Alec Pierce. I'll never forget when we drafted, AD in the second round, and Alec came to my office and asked, Chris, what does this mean for me? I said, nothing. Go compete and go play. And that's what he did. I think he's been a good player every year. The quarterback situation, I think, has kind of hindered him at times. But you look the last 2 years, I mean, with Anthony, I thought him and Anthony had a good connection on the deep ball. I thought Reggie did a tremendous job helping him expand his game to all 3 levels. But no, Alex a priority.
Chris, when Anthony got hurt.
Did you ever have a moment where you thought you might not be back?
I mean, anytime you don't win, of course you're going to have that thought. But do I live in a world of fear? No. That's not who I am.
Chris, when Anthony got hurt in the middle of the season, I know you guys signed Brett Rippon to fill out that quarterback room. We hadn't started in a couple of years. Did you guys make any moves that ultimately didn't come through to try to sign somewhere more of a starting caliber quarterback that, I know we're in a what-if situation that would have been able to maybe better fill in for Daniel when he went down in Jacksonville?
So that's a good question, because we did. We actually explored that at the trade deadline. We couldn't get it done. And look, I'd be remiss if not talking about, Phillip, because I thought Phillip gave us a chance to win. And I'll never forget look, of course you have doubt. Phillip had doubt. Shane, we all did. You're signing a guy that hadn't played football since 2020. And I'll never forget I'm right behind him when he's walking on the field in Seattle, and it was the most courageous moment I think I've ever seen from an athlete. You think about what was at stake. Not just for our team, but for Phillip. Legacy, postpones Hall of Fame. I mean, it was the most courageous act I'd seen by a player, because it took real courage. 3 days of practice, hadn't played, everybody in America criticizing his decision to come back, including, star quarterbacks, and to go out there and give us a chance to win. And then the reasons why, but the reasons why is, he's got a great relationship with Shane. He cares about this organization, and then he loves being a teammate. The words, I don't even know if we taped it. If they did, the world should see it. But like after the loss in Seattle, that was a bear. I mean, that was a bear, man. We fought our tails off and didn't get it done. And I remember Philip coming and talking to the team and saying, look, we fought, and this is not about me. This was, all I want to do is be a teammate again and try to help y'all win. And he gave us a chance. I can't say enough about who Philip Rivers is as a person and as a player. I was in awe. So, but anyway, back to your question. Yes, we did. It didn't get done.
With all that in mind, knowing that Anthony's health is not certain next year, I know you guys are confident that Daniel will be back, but it's not a given. Do you guys feel a need to go out and get another starting caliber quarterback this offseason, just as a contingency plan, and say in case Daniel's recovery doesn't go?
Yeah, we'll work through that. I'm very encouraged by Riley Leonard. And I thought the 2 times he played, I know everybody's going to ask, well, okay, why didn't you go with Riley at the time? Well, he had a knee. You know, he came up with a knee, so we're like, holy crap. You know, what if it was kind of iffy if he could go? So that's when we led us to the Phillip thing. But look, I didn't think it wasn't too big for him. First half against Houston, I mean, they were playing with their dudes, and, you know, he led us to 17 points in that game. So I do think there's something there. That is something we will evaluate. We got to make the decision, okay, if Anthony doesn't get to where we think he can Riley be the 2? I do think it's a position that every year we got to address in some way, fashion, or form. I just think the way, because they come from everywhere, so I think we need to continue to evaluate it like we do every year. And if we get an opportunity at any level of the draft, we find a guy we like, we need to take him.
How close do you think this team is to a breakthrough? I know you mentioned before during the 8-2 start, I thought you were a top 4 team. You end 8-9, a lot of injuries, things like that. But the high sense of urgency that Carly has put on you and Shane, how close is the team to being for real?
Every year's different. I mean, close is I don't know how to answer that one. I ain't gonna lie to you, because every year's different. Every team's different. Do we think we have a good core group of players to work around? Yes. Do we feel good that we can get Daniel back in the fold here? Yes. Do we have work to do? Yes. So I don't really know how to answer the close. I'd have told you after 8-2, damn right we're close. Then we go 0-7, I say, damn right we're not close. So I don't know. I do feel good about a lot of the pieces we have. It's not an empty bucket that we're looking at here.
Along the same lines, this week has shown us there's not a lot of patience in this league.
Oh,
Your
no.
family has shown you a
yeah.
lot of patience,
Absolutely.
right, for 10 years. How much does that weigh on you and the responsibility to make good on that at some point?
Well,
This is not to say you never won anything, just saying.
yeah, no, it's like it doesn't mean you go out and go do a bunch of desperate things. No, you still got to be sound and do the right thing for the organization. But look, I feel urgency every year. So
You dedicated. How do you evaluate linebacker?
man, I thought Zaire and Pratt ended up having, pretty good years, playing pretty good football. And I think our history here has shown that, at one point we were almost, there's an excess of riches, at one point when you looked at when we had, between Anthony Walker, Darius Leonard, who is as good a linebacker as I've been around. We draft Zaire in the 7th. We had Matt Adams end up being a really good player. We take Bobby Okereke in the 3rd. We had E.J. Speed, who was a 6th. So, we've done a pretty good job, drafting that position. I thought our 2 guys played pretty good. JC, we've got to keep him healthy. We think he's got enough talent to do it. But he hadn't stayed healthy, and that's a big point of emphasis that he has to do. And then, like I said, I think throughout the defense we have to get faster.
Chris, you've dedicated a lot of you've dedicated a lot of draft capital to edge rushers over the years. Where does that stand? How do you bolster the rush for next year?
Well, And you're right, we have. And I like where Latu's at. I did think Latu played really good football. He ended up with 8.5 sacks. There's some close but no cigar plays that I think would have put him at about 14 that he needs to finish. Ended up with 3 picks. The play in Kansas City, I was like, that's what blue players, they make those kind of plays. So we like his trend, upwards, and I think he's going to continue to get better. But we got to find a way to continue to address, whether it's through the draft, free agency, however we end up doing it, in-house. We've got to address the front and make sure we have enough.
Is a playoffs or bust year for yourself, given that you haven't had success over the last decade?
That's always our mindset. Whether it's this year and last year, that's always the mindset, James.
Is it more so knowing, this is the first time that you've gone into the final year of your contract without an extension in place? Is that, heightened that sense of urgency from your end?
No. I don't know how to, whether I had 6 years left on the deal or 1 year left on the deal. I'm going to treat them the same way.
Chris, with, again, personnel you never know, but what do you anticipate from getting Hunter Walmart back, from getting Wally back? These are guys that you anticipated being players.
Not anticipated. We thought those were big, as losses we had, those 2 kids getting hurt, we were expecting big things. And I think it had been, y'all saw it in camp. Wally, he was playing really good football. And I thought, especially he got hurt in that practice, but even, up to that point in that practice against Baltimore, against some pretty good wideouts, had held up really well. And we thought, he had a high ceiling. So we're very encouraged by him. And then Hunter, freak. Every time we kept asking him to do something, he'd do it at a high level, whether it was on special teams where the impact he would have made, at safety, being able to play dime. Those were 2 losses that it'll be good to get those 2 back.
Can he be a linebacker or not? Is that?
I think in dime situations he could. I think he can do a lot of things with Hunter.
This time last year, a big point of emphasis was kind of putting pressure on guys, avoiding complacency and adding more competition. Do you feel you did that? Is it still something you kind of need to press hard this year?
I think you're always doing it. I thought at the quarterback position we did, and I thought it got the best out of both of Daniel and Anthony. And I think that ended up coming to fruition to a good thing. But I think every year you continue to push, everybody. You can't have enough good players. You can't.
Chris, how do you see right tackle?
What's that?
How do you see right tackle?
Yeah, that'll be so. I thought Braden Smith played really good football, and was really proud of Braden for what he overcame a year ago and how he's handled himself. Unfortunately, he had an injury, that ended his season, but we were really pleased with the way he played. Saying that, we also were really pleased in the way Travis played. We think he's got a lot of upside here going forward. I was happy with a lot, really the line I thought in general they played, really good football. Bort in his first year as a starter at center, I thought he had some really good moments. I thought Quentin played at a high level. I thought Bernie continues to ascend. Matt had some up and down moments, but he got better. So I was pleased with the unit. So at the end of the day, we'll work through it. I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you what's going to happen with Braden at the end of the day. But I will tell you, we do like where Travis is and where he's going.
You leave Gonzalez as guard and let Travis be tackler, or is that to be
We'll work.
determined?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that one yet. We'll work through it.
You said there's some positions where you feel like you need to get younger. I know this is a pretty veteran-laden team, specifically in some certain positions. How different do you envision this roster being in 6 or 7 months down the road?
I think it'll. I do agree with the assessment that we do need to add some youth. I think defensively we need to add some youth. I think offensively we got a pretty good mix, of veterans and young players.
Take one more, Greg, go ahead.
Well, thank you. Chris, you say you like your line. We know what Jonathan Taylor is. You also said you got to run better when you need to run.
Yep.
How does all that add together?
Yeah, no, I think a lot, and that's something I know our staff's digging into. You know, it helps when you've got a mobile quarterback. It does. It opens some things up. But that's something the staff will dig into and you know, we'll work through.
Have you or will you reach out to John Harbaugh at all?
I would consider John Harbaugh a friend. I think he's an excellent football coach. But, you know, Shane Steichen's our head football coach, and we feel good about it.